Well, good evening and welcome to Real Fellas Talk Sports. It's Wednesday at 7 o'clock. I call it happy hour, my favorite time of the week because I'm with my crew. We get to chop up the week in sports. So I'm looking forward to it. We have a lot to get to. It's going to be dominated tonight by basketball, both pro, college, the ladies. So let's get into it. I'll start with one of our special guests tonight. He is the best golfer of anyone on this show tonight. And that's my good buddy, Mr. Gregory Fenner. Greg, how you doing and welcome.
Listen, I'm doing great, man. It is so much fun being on here with you guys. I don't miss the show unless I'm in another time zone. I was in Ghana and couldn't dial in, so I missed it that night, but I do not miss the show. I love being on here with you guys.
Well, I'm glad you're on. Good to have you. And thanks for checking us out when you're not on. So appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All the way from Indianapolis, Indiana, representing that state big time. I don't know if he's the director of their Chamber of Commerce or what the deal is, but Mr. David, how you doing, sir? How you doing?
I'm doing great, representing Indianapolis as I should. Yes. One of the great cities in this country. And I'm looking forward to this evening's discussion. Hopefully it'll be reasonable and logical and realistic.
I'm hosting, David. It won't be. It won't be, David. Sorry, we won't be talking about Caitlin Clark or the Pacers tonight. So,
yes, we will.
And last, but believe me, not least, I've known him for 60 years. He's from my neighborhood. I've always said he was the best athlete in our neighborhood. He and I went to school together. Mr. Larry Ables, good evening, sir. How you doing?
Good evening, Chuck. And I'm disappointed with Mr. Fenner. Just because he's in Ghana doesn't mean he can't tune in.
I couldn't wake up.
This is on the World Wide Web. Hey, nice having you, Greg.
Good to be here, man. Absolutely.
All right. Well, listen, let's get into it. I'm hoping not to. Hey, Kung Fu, thanks for joining us, big fella.
Hey, Kung Fu.
Let's hopefully this doesn't turn too bad because I'm going to start with the Los Angeles Lakers, and I kind of know how David feels about that. But, man, on December 16th, those Los Angeles Lakers were in 10th place in the West. And, yes, they made an acquisition and got Luka. They're now in second place. They've won, I don't know, they're 8-2, I think, over their last 10 games. They're on fire. They went into Denver a week or so ago, beat Denver in Denver when Denver was very healthy. I'll start with you, Larry. What's going on with the Lakers and why and how are they so successful so far?
Yeah, they're playing very well now. They, as well as Golden State, both of them are like 8-2 or 9-1 in the last 10 games. They seem – it's interesting because Luka really hasn't blown up, maybe but one game offensively, but his presence on the court seems to draw people away from other players. LeBron doesn't have to handle the ball as much. He can play off the ball and get his spots and get some easy shots. And Luka's been working the lob game well on him. LeBron James has been playing well. It's a bunched up race in the West, and I think between second place and sixth place, the hot team will probably finish first, or will finish second, I should say.
I know Oklahoma City has a pretty good lead on LA, but you're right. Golden State and LA are coming since both those trades, the Jimmy Butler trade in Golden State and then the Luka trade. David, what are your thoughts about, the Los Angeles Lakers? And can you see them coming out of the West?
No. All right. You asked that one question. I say no. They're not going to be in the West Finals or the NBA Finals. That said, they are playing very well. You got to give JJ Redick very, very much credit for coaching beyond what I thought he could coach. He kind of reminds me of the emergence of Pat Riley, who was a novice coach when he took over the Lakers in the early 1980s. So I'm prepared to give the Lakers their due, but to cheer them on to be a potential NBA champion, very much premature.
Well, good. Thank you, David. I'm going to come back to you again about a comment you just made.
Please do.
Gregory. So, in my opinion, they've got two geniuses on that team now, Luka and LeBron, along with other role players that are playing well. So, what do you think of this resurgence of the LA Lakers?
So I think it's a couple of things. First off, I think that Luka has made all the difference in the world, not just on the court, but it's an energy. He brought an energy with him. He's got this chip on his shoulder. I want to show the Dallas Mavericks that they're fools. I want to show them just how bad that trade really was. Everybody loves and worships LeBron, so everybody wants a chance to play with LeBron.
Hey, Patrick.
And so
Hey, Patrick.
with that, when you look at the players that they have, Connect is balling, Reeves is balling, and Hachimura is balling. But very few people have mentioned this resurgence of the Lakers is also very coincidentally coming along the same time. Vanderbilt came back from injury, and he's a really good defensive. He's only 6'8", but he plays bigger. He plays much bigger. So there are a lot of things I think that are factored into this LA resurgence. We're going to talk about JJ Redick later, but I'm telling you, this guy, he's the real deal. He is not. He's not a fraud. He's not an overnight success. His basketball IQ is off the chart. We'll come back to him, but man, I'm telling you, I love where the Lakers are, and I do think they can get to the finals simply because OKC is going to have to show me right now. OKC is a regular season champion, and that's what they've been. They got all the players. I don't think their coach understands matchups, and I don't think he understands who to put on the floor at the right time, and he doesn't manage the clock very well. So that's where I think their downfall. Not the players.
Greg, what are you talking about?
Lord.
Hold on. Hey, first of all, Robert Woods, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, Robert,
those
what's up?
comments. Good to see you, my friend. Now, Larry, go ahead and take a shot. But also, Greg makes a good point, Larry. They have been really good in the regular season the last couple of years.
Okay, so wait a minute. He's talking about his coach doesn't know what they're doing.
No.
They're blowing teams out by they had the widest margin of victory in the league. They're blowing people out. They're using their team very well. And they did a lot of it before Chet Holmgren even came back from being injured. And they've even gotten better since he's been back.
One word: playoffs. Playoffs.
Well, no, what they are is a young team. I'm a person that values experience.
Yeah.
They got their butts kicked last year because they didn't have the experience. After they get their butts kicked last year, I think they remind me of the Celtics a couple of years ago when they weren't quite ready. So I think everybody's got to go through their butt kicking. Now, maybe it's once, maybe it's twice, but they definitely had to run through it last year.
Yeah.
I think they can play with anybody this year. They look like they've learned from last year.
No doubt. Let me add one more thing. Here's what's going to happen.
Hey, Michael Van.
Coach is going to get, at some point, if he doesn't go deep, he's going to get fired. And they're going to bring in a seasoned coach that knows how to take that talent, win a championship. And that's just my prediction. I just don't think the coach can get there fast enough to satisfy everybody, because you got a window and they got talent, man. The talent they have is crazy good. And I just don't think you can get them. Okay, I'm sorry.
Greg. I appreciate the fact that you are on this show, but you are not in the know.
Oh, no. Here we go.
Let me just say this.
Here we go.
If they had a different uniform, like that said the Knicks, that said the Celtics, that said the Lakers, you wouldn't say what you're saying. It's a small town bias that I think a lot of people have, and I think you are falling victim to it. They are the number 1 or number 2 team in the NBA all season long. As Larry adroitly and smartly said, they are beating teams by the widest margin in the league. Irrespective of what their coach may or may not be doing, they are playing some of the best basketball possible. Plus, they have the ultimate probable MVP candidate in SGA. Yeah. So I just think you took a shot at OKC that was unnecessary. But I appreciate the fact that you took that shot.
Well, I want to make one thing. Hey, Richard, thanks for joining us. Man, thanks for joining us as well. But I want to make one point Greg was making, and this is the bigger point he was making. Look, the regular season is the regular season. Great. There's another data point we have how they play in big games, and that was the championship of the midseason tournament. They had the best record. They were on a roll. They came out the West. They got beat by 30 by Milwaukee. by 30. They were held to
Chuck,
80
that was
points.
one.
Hold on,
that
hold
was
on,
one
hold
game.
on. It was a data point. It's just another data point, Larry.
Yeah, they was in the championship game. Use all the
Exactly.
data points they got to get there. They lost one game. Then they've had about 2 or 3 10 or 15 game winning streaks this year. They're bound to lose sometime.
Well, let
There
me
you
get
go.
back to the Lakers. We'll talk about OKC on another show. Let's
Are we
get
still
back to
talking
the
Lakers?
No,
I thought we were done.
No.
Okay.
So
All right.
all of you guys have touched on the Lakers and why things have gone well. What you haven't mentioned, at least out loud, and that is they have a 40-year-old on that team that's playing pretty doggone good. The last couple games, he had one game, he had 33 and 17 rebounds. He had 30 and 13 rebounds. I mean, his fourth quarter performance has been incredible. And I think one of the things Luka has done is saved him so that he has his legs in the fourth quarter. Larry, what have you thought of Mr. James's performance?
I thought I pretty much mentioned that when I was talking about the Lakers. Since Luka's been there, he's allowed James to play off the ball. He's been able to pick his spots, and he's the one that's been scoring. And I don't think he's had to exert himself like bringing the ball down. So it's been a real good mix for them. LeBron James has scored a lot. I thought I said he's the one that scored.
Right. David, do you think he could be has played himself into an MVP and part of the MVP conversation? Not the MVP, but in the conversation now?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to keep my responses short.
Okay.
No, he's played very well. He's arguably the greatest 40-year-old in the history of sports, and I'll give him that. Is he the greatest player in the history of the NBA? No, but he's in the conversation. He's a great player, and I'll leave it at that.
Gregory, how about this 40-year-old phenom? How has he been performing for the Lakers in 2025?
So it's incredible what he's doing. And it's not just, he's not out there. One thing I remember about Michael Jordan as he got older, and it was sad to watch, and it happened so when he got here to the Wizards, man, these kids were running by him like he was standing still. And it was just, he just couldn't do it anymore. LeBron, he's not the kid he was 20 years ago, but he can still get up and down that floor really well. He's still dunking. He's still flying. You know, he's still doing a lot of things that he did back then. But I think the other thing that's helping him so much is J.J. Redick is really good at managing his minutes. He's really good at that. And Luka, having that other superstar there who can really carry the day, that's going to help a lot. LeBron could play another 2 years. He could. He could play another 2 years.
And I thought he played well, even with. I thought he always needed somebody else to play with. So when they got Anthony Davis, since Davis has been there, I think he's played pretty well. As long as he's got another person that can run with him, you know, he's played well all year.
Last two games.
Go ahead.
The last two games, they didn't have Rui or Austin Reeves, and they still won. So
let me just say this, and this is going to sound crazy. A lot of stuff I say is crazy.
No, not you.
My last dunk was at age 37 at 6'1". I just
That sounds crazy. You're right.
But it's real. Anyway.
I think I said last week you would have balled out in that 60 and up running back. I think I was serious. Man, that 60 up, yeah, you hey man, you the 60-year-old Saquon Barkley, bro.
Hello.
Amen.
Hello. Well, you guys mentioned Golden State. We'll move on from LA for now. You mentioned Golden State, the impact of this Jimmy Butler. I didn't think that trade was going to help them. And I actually did not think, I thought the Golden State run was over. I really did. And they got off to a great first start of the year. Then they fell off bad. But ever since Butler's got there, they're playing really well, including Mr. Curry. Larry, can Golden State with Butler, do they have one more run in them? Can they also perhaps make some damage in the West?
I don't think so. I think they and the Lakers have a similar problem. I don't think they have enough big guys, and they run up against some of these other teams. But both of them, just like the Lakers, they have that veteran savvy, which comes in handy in the playoffs. So there'll be a handful of somebody, but I can't see them getting too far. I can't really see them being in the Final Four of the West, to tell you the truth.
David, what's your thoughts on Golden State since the Jimmy Butler trade? And by the way, did you think the Butler trade was going to work out as well as it has so far?
Well, so far so good until Draymond slaps Jimmy Butler in the face.
Like,
That's going to happen.
right.
I think
Golden State wait, before you go any further, Kung Fu, you had a dunk at 32 and you did it on your 6'9" nephew. We'd like to see that footage.
We like to get your nephew to see his version of things.
Yes. But thank you for your comments.
Amen.
Go ahead, David.
Where was I?
Yes.
I think Golden State is just too small, and they're old. As good as Steph is, as good as he can shoot, as good as Draymond is in terms of playmaking, as good as Jimmy Butler is when he's not arguing and trying to become the face of a particular team, I just don't think they have enough.
Yeah.
And I think they're respectable because they're one of the faces of the league.
Yeah, I thought so too. It's just Steph Curry.
But they've won 8 out of their last 10 games.
Yeah, and Steph is shooting the lights out. And Michael Vann is right. Early in the year, Buddy Held was playing well for them, but he's really been a disappearing act for the last couple months, quite frankly. So
he hit a couple of shots last night.
He hit a couple of shots last night.
Yeah, they came back against the Knicks last night.
Yeah, they put him away.
The Knicks looked like the Knicks were going to put them away early on.
Yeah.
All right. So one last thing about the Lakers before. Okay, in terms of coach of the year, you guys have touched on how well JJ Redick has done coaching this ball club, and people weren't sure how that was going to go. He came out of the podcast booth. Wait a minute, maybe I can be an NBA coach. Came out of the podcast booth, and he's done a really good job. Would you put him in the conversation for coach of the year in the NBA, David?
Yes, he has to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
As much as I get tired of anything Lakers, I'm still realistic. He's done a hell of a job. The best job of a guy coming out of the broadcast booth since Pat Riley.
Yeah. Steve Kerr. Did Steve Kerr come out of the broadcast booth?
He had been the general manager of the Suns.
What about Mark Jackson?
Yeah.
He came out of the broadcast.
Yeah, and he did pretty good.
He did pretty well. He
Yeah.
did pretty well.
Yeah.
Larry, can you put JJ in the coach of the year conversation?
I don't see him. I mean, I think he's doing a good job, but there's a lot of people doing good jobs. I think Houston's coach is doing a good job. Bickerstaff's doing a good job. Cleveland's coach is doing a good job. And contrary to what Mr. Finner says, I think OKC's coach is doing a great job. Seeing that his team's 10 and a half.
Hold on, Larry. So the Cleveland coach is doing a good job. His first year at it, they're 50-11. OKC's coach, same team from a year ago, added some pieces, same record, but he's doing a great job.
Well, I wasn't necessarily trying to make that distinction, but I can make a distinction. I think Bernie Bickerstaff did a good job with Cleveland's team. And the coach there, Atkinson, who I think is a good guy, came into a great situation. Not like Bickerstaff, who went to a poor situation. He's got that team winning 3 or 4 times as many games as they had last year. But I think I can say the same thing for Houston's coach. He went down there. He's got a real young squad, but they played well. And I still go back to Oklahoma City. They're up 10.5 games in the West. The West competition the West is going to have a team above 500 that's not even going to make the play-in. In the East, everybody's in the play-in. None of them will make the play-in if they were in the West.
Just to follow what Larry's saying about OKC, keep in mind their second best player had been out for most of the season, Chet Holmgren.
According to you,
he's their second best player.
Jay Williams.
Of course, it's according to me. Of course, I'm a seer, and they still managed to have the best record in the NBA. I mean, that's a pretty phenomenal achievement.
They're tied. Yep, good point. So, how about Coach of the Year? So you also, Larry, touched on the Detroit coach, Bickerstaff. That team a year ago, they won 14 games, were the worst team in all of basketball, including the Wizards. And this year, they've already won 37 games. Mr. Bickerstaff,
I think it's 35. I think they're like 35 and 27.
Is it 35 and 27?
Yeah.
So who would you pick as coach if the season ended today? Who would be your coach of the year in the NBA?
No, I think it's a lot of people that I would consider. That's a tough call. That's a real tough call. I still got to kind of take my hat off to Oklahoma City because I think leading the West, which is a much more competitive league for that many games, shows me a certain level of consistency.
Yeah.
And like David was saying, they lost one of their key players. Now Jay Williams to me is
the second best player.
Yeah, might be. It certainly is this year. He made the All-Star team, but Holcomb is no slouch, and I think they haven't missed a beat there.
Yeah, David, how about your choice of coach of the year?
I would go with Bickerstaff. I mean, typically, coach of the year is not always the coach of the top team.
Agreed.
That's been historically the case. I think Bickerstaff has done more with less.
I agree.
And to turn around Detroit after being fired by Cleveland. I mean, first of all, he didn't have a slump in terms of his attitude as a coach. He just went on and sucked it up and made another team better.
100%.
That's worth coach of the year to me.
I agree with you. Gregory, who would be if the season ended today, who would be your coach of the year?
So I'm gonna actually go along with David on this one. There are two teams that are playing well, and Bickerstaff is largely responsible for both of them. Now, that's not to diminish the Cleveland coach, but he put both of them in the position there.
Yeah.
Detroit last year was hot garbage. I mean,
they were terrible.
They were awful, man. They could barely even get people to come to the games. Now, when you look at the players they have, and I've always been a Jaden Ivey fan. I just kept, even when he was at Purdue, I knew it was going to be something really special. But they picked up Harris, Tobias Harris. They picked up a lot of players that, and these coaches, some of them just have this vision, and they know what that chemistry looks like. They know how to put it together, and some of them just don't know how to. But these guys like Bickerstaff, he knows what he's doing. He that team that's playing right now in Cleveland, he put that together. He put that team together, and I'm telling you, so you can't discount a man not only basketball knowledge but organizational skills and that chemistry knowledge, and I think he gets it. As far as I'm going to go back to the Warriors for one quick second.
Okay.
The reason I don't think the Warriors can go farther than they are, they're playing well and they'll show in the playoffs, but they need that second splash, brother. They can't. Their game is that three ball. Yeah. They're trying to convert to another game right now, and they can't play. They're changing horses midstream. They can't do that. They made their bones off that three ball, and Draymond running, doing what he wants to do. They miss Clay more than they probably want to admit. They miss him bad. They miss him, man. So
big problem with them. If things would have stayed the way they are, they're in sixth place, so they would probably draw Denver, which
so goodbye. 99. Yeah.
But I like y'all's choice. I think Bickerstaff, if I had a vote, I would pick Bickerstaff only because of the turnaround that you guys indicated and the point that you just made about his impact on that Cleveland team that's doing really well too. So no shade on the other coaches, but that's how I.
It's a lot of them out there, and I'll still say don't sleep on Houston's coach,
right?
Because a couple of years ago they were garbage too, and he's got them playing well with a very young squad.
Detroit beat Cleveland. Detroit beat Boston a couple of days ago. So it's amazing what Detroit is doing right now. Okay, so it's time. At this time, it's now March. David, who's going to be in the NBA Finals? Who comes out the East? Who comes out the West? The Pacers come out the East.
The Pacers are going to win the East.
Good.
I'm very hopeful.
They're playing well.
The Pacers are going to come out of the East, and Tyrese Halliburton, if he continues to play as he's been playing the last 10 games or so, they have a chance. Just keep in mind, nobody talks about the Pacers except me. And they were in the Eastern Conference Finals. They were kind of overmatched against Boston, didn't know how to play in a conference finals. But they are a good team, haven't been talked about. I think they're going to come out of the East. And I think they're going to play the Oklahoma City Thunder. And that's the finals that I would love to see. And the NBA, I challenge them to market that as a final.
Outstanding. Mr. Abels, who comes out the East, who comes out the West? See if you stick with your
I think it's
Milwaukee
going to
Bucks.
be Boston and Oklahoma City.
Oh, you have changed. Okay.
No, I think that's who's coming out.
Oh, okay. A couple of
I
weeks
think
ago,
it's
you
going
liked
to
the
be
Bucks.
real. I think those last 4 teams, and especially in the West, it's going to be really interesting. But the East has some, I think Cleveland and Boston are the cream of the crop. I can't count out the Bucks.
I know. I knew you liked them a few
I
weeks
can't
ago.
count them out. But they might have to play Indiana in the first round. It seems like Indiana's kind of matches up well against them.
We know how to play the Bucks.
Yeah.
Gregory, who comes out the East? Who comes out the West?
So Boston comes out of the East. It's playoff basketball, and I still think that Cleveland is just a few seasons away from knowing how to go through the playoffs and win these 7-game series. They can win. They can beat anybody on a given night, but in a 7-game series, I don't think anybody beats the Celtics. Now the West. I wouldn't have said this a month ago, but I'm leaning toward the Lakers just because it's playoff basketball.
Hello.
And it's not that they have the best players, but they know how to win. And they both of these guys, they know how to get in a playoff game and win. Luka and LeBron, they know how to make free throws when it counts. They're primetime players. I don't see an OKC player yet who has defined himself as a primetime player. And I still got my doubts about the coach until he wins some playoff games. I got doubts about the coach.
He has won some playoff games.
Well, I mean the big ones. I mean the big ones.
They won some series and stuff.
Yeah,
They just haven't won the whole thing.
yeah. I'm really struggling with them just because 7 games in a series, man. It's
SGA is a primetime player.
no doubt.
One thing to keep in mind in the NBA, it's lopsided. 2 teams have won half of the NBA championships.
Celtics, Lakers.
They've literally won half of the NBA championships. Literally.
But yeah, recent history they haven't been as dominant.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I just wanted to put some perspective on that.
The perspective is those guys. Most of those guys ain't playing now.
Boston just won.
They did. Good
Yeah, they
point.
did.
Yeah, when was the last time they won before that?
Boston just
Boston,
won.
Lakers.
It
Wow.
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Magic. I like that, Robert. I like your choice. I like your choice. All right. Look, how badly do we all feel about Van came? Look, here's Boston, Cleveland. Okay. Hey, Van, there's 2 teams, right?
Really?
Man, who comes out the West? Who comes out the
You
East?
got a round robin going there, bro.
Hey, Van, you probably want to put Denver up there.
Well, why not even throw in Detroit? I mean, what the hell, right? Hey, listen, we all must feel bad for a little bit for Dallas, right? I mean, Kyrie was playing his guts out. He was putting in more minutes now that the Luka trade had gone down. They were scrapping. They didn't have a lot of their guys. Gafford was down, Lively was down, AD was down, and they were still battling, looking well. And now they lost them for at least a year. Larry, what do you think of that whole situation?
Yeah, they're toast.
Yeah.
So there's nothing much to say. I thought they would be competitive, especially if AD and one of the other big guys that come back. I can't see them doing anything now.
It's tough blow because he really. I mean, I think that Kyrie has really matured. This group right here, we've taken up some shots at Kyrie because we didn't understand what he was up to, but he has really stabilized, and it's just so unfortunate. David, what's your thoughts on that?
I feel badly for Kyrie because he'd matured, as you said.
Yeah.
Number 2, he believes the earth is round. He must.
Are we sure about that?
Well, he hasn't talked about the flat earth. And
I mean, are we sure that it's not flat?
Oh, I'm sure.
Gregory, go ahead.
You know, Kyrie has demonstrated a level of maturity that I didn't think was possible.
Yeah.
And he's played very hard, like you said, Chuck, very hard. And he's been quiet about it.
I agree.
And he's kept his mouth closed. And even when Luka was traded, he didn't denounce the team.
Or want to trade.
He just played harder.
Agreed.
Not giving credit for that.
Him and Jason Kidd. I guess Jason doesn't get enough credit too, but Jason must be a hell of a coach as well down there in Dallas. So
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, very unfortunate. Greg, you have any thoughts on that whole situation?
Yeah, Dallas is done. And the thing that I will say about him is, even before this injury and before the Luke trade, any given night, you tune into the Mavericks and somebody is out. There's always somebody out. They almost never seem to have a full boat. It's like somebody's got a sore knee, a sore back, load management. Is somebody always over there in street clothes? I'm like, man, that's not how you win championships. How many Celtics you see sitting out for load management or
A lot.
sore knee? I mean, well, other than what's his name? He's older than I am.
Only Porzingis is the only one that misses games.
Well, Porzingis is pretty fragile, but the other guy that's pretty old, that came from Florida.
Horford, Al Horford.
Horford's pretty. He's getting up there, so he's kind of, his body just doesn't.
He's usually there though.
He is, but I give him a pass. But most nights, those guys are on the floor. But Dallas, man, these guys, it's always somebody in street clothes over there. Always.
At some point, you have to ask yourself, the training system, the trainers, whatever the conditioning, something is wrong in Dallas. Something's wrong.
Not going right down there.
Feel bad. Any other comments about the NBA you guys want to make? Given the last week before we move on to college hoops real quick?
The only thing I will say is one more thing. Donovan Mitchell.
Oh, yes.
Let me tell you, this dude is sick. I mean, he is crazy good. And he's got that, the thing that I think gives him an edge and why he's making Cleveland so much better. Every team that wins a championship, whether it's baseball, NBA, NFL, they got a couple of gangsters. He is a gangster. He's not afraid of anybody. He goes hard in the paint. He'll dunk on anybody. He doesn't back down. And he's up. In Dickie V's words, he is a prime time player, baby.
Yes, indeed.
When it's time to play, that boy straps it on and plays.
You bring him a good.
And to be only 6'1" or 6'2".
Oh.
Exactly.
So that leads me to my final question in the NBA. MVP. See, again, if the season ended today, with the information that you have so far, Larry, who would be your MVP?
Oh, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, no doubt.
David?
SGA. I agree with Larry.
And Gregory?
Well, I do like SGA. And he probably, given where they are and what they're doing, but I got to go with Mitchell.
Wow, nice.
I got to go with Mitchell. I got to go with
that shouldn't be a surprise. We shouldn't be upset about what he's saying. Donovan Mitchell is the best player on the best team.
Best record.
And the best player on the best team, or one of the two best teams, should be a candidate for MVP.
And he sacrificed his game a little bit because his scoring is a little down on purpose because they're spreading that thing around. They picked up this guy, Ty Jerome, and DeAndre Hunter from the University of Virginia Cavaliers. And those two guys are contributing on that ball club too. So keep an eye on those Cavaliers. Good point, Gregory. But you're right, Larry and David. I think SGA, if the season ended today, would be the MVP. And David, I was surprised your boy Joker is having a hell of a year too. But
Joker, well, there's Joker fatigue. Joker is one of the great players ever.
Well, I think he'll be definitely in the voting, but SGA has scored over 300 points.
SGA is going to get it. SGA is going to get it. Joker has won 3 times. There's Joker fatigue. That happens.
Yeah, but I'm giving it to SGA because he's scored more than 300 points more than anybody else in the league.
I don't argue. I can't argue with that.
That's a dramatic difference.
But
there's other things, hey, Larry. There's other things besides scoring, right? I mean, there's
he's getting a lot of assists too. He's doing it all. He's doing it all.
Right. He doesn't have as many
triple 300 points more than everybody than the next person.
That's a lot.
Yes,
sounds like he shoots a lot. Says to me, he shoots a lot. That's what it says to me.
Well, based on that logic,
necessarily he does. I mean, some games he does, but he gets a lot of assists too. I mean, he draws a lot of attention. He
based on that logic, though, in hindsight, Wilt Chamberlain should have won the MVP 10 years in a row. I'll just leave it at that.
All right. Let's switch to college hoops. Let's do it. We're going to start off with the ladies. Hey, listen, the other night, UCLA played USC for the second time. And it's Juju Watkins for the second time put on a show. She had a hell of a first half. I think she ended up with 30. They beat UCLA. UCLA has 2 losses, and both of
To
them are
USC.
Yep.
they're neighborhood rivals. It's good to see that battle. It's kind of cool also to see in the audience the other night, Cheryl Miller had her USC jersey on, and Reggie Miller, her brother, had his UCLA gear on. That was kind of cool to see the 2 of them. Larry, what did you think? A, did you see that game? And B, what did you think of it?
Yeah, it was a good game. And it was funny. The first time USC won, UCLA was still ranked in front of them. So I guess now they can't do it anymore now. No, I thought it was a good game. It was a nice neighborhood rivalry, but looks like USC is taking them. Nobody else in the country can beat UCLA, but USC is flexing their muscles.
And Juju's only a sophomore. David, what did you think of that game and the results?
I saw part of the game. USC is just a better team than UCLA. I think it's a bad matchup for UCLA. If they meet in the Big Ten championship, USC is going to beat them again.
David, let me ask you a bonus question because I know how you feel about Miss Clark. Could Juju, when it's all said and done, be a better player than Caitlin Clark?
Better player.
I know that's a tricky question.
It is a tricky question. I'll answer it this way. Will she have a greater impact? No. Because of the way the country is now. I don't think she does the things that Caitlin Clark does. Caitlin was shot out of a cannon, an unexpected girl from Iowa who happened to have the right complexion. And she had a hell of a game. I think Juju is going to be very good. She's going to have commercials and all of that. But to say she'll have the impact of a Caitlin Clark, no. Nobody's ever had an impact in women's basketball that Caitlin Clark has had. No one.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that point. Gregory, what'd you think of that USC-UCLA game?
So I watched that game, and I'm telling you, it was incredible, and everything that Juju does. So I don't think Caitlin is a better all-around player than Juju, but the stuff that Caitlin Clark did. I mean, we're in the era of the 3-ball. That lady was dropping them from the logo, and so it was a cross between great college basketball and like the Harlem Globetrotters or something. I mean, the stuff that she did was really pretty unbelievable. But with regard to Juju, I paid attention the other night for the first time to just how good her ball handling skills. I just never paid attention to it before, but they are sick, crazy skills. Her passing, the way she sees the floor, she's like a complete player, man. I mean, she's really pretty incredible, and that's what UCLA they couldn't get control of. Like she hurt them in all kinds of ways, not just scoring. And the minute they slack off of her, boom, she's dropped. She
even came behind that big girl and blocked her shot a couple times too.
Exactly. And then gritted in the camera, like get a little muscle beam in the camera. But I just think that the way Caitlin came along, the time she came along, the 3-ball era, and took a team from very average to like world class. She's one of a kind. I mean, Caitlin Clark was one of a kind.
So let me pause real quick. I want to shout out Mr. Paul Villella, who joined us tonight and gave his comments about Caitlin. Paul is one of the best businessmen I know in Northern Virginia. Huge UVA fan. I mean, huge. All around great guy. And I'm glad he joined us tonight. Paul, thanks a lot. I appreciate that, big fella.
Welcome, Paul. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. So the ladies in general, usually it's UConn or Southern or South Carolina or sometimes Notre Dame, sometimes Stanford. But this year, man, we got 6 or 7 teams that can give this thing a heck of a run. I'll start with you, David. Who's going to win the national championship on the ladies' side?
I'm still going to go with South Carolina. I think they have the best coach. They have the pedigree, and South Carolina can't be counted out. But let me just say this about women's basketball, women's college basketball, which will be the fuel for the WNBA. Women's college basketball is at a high level, and the attention. I pay more attention now to the women, maybe because they're there. They're not going off to the WNBA or to Russia or someplace like that. They're, like Juju Watkins. We're getting to see her over a period of time. We saw Caitlin Clark several years in a row. Angel Reese, who's, I just ate her hamburger the other day. I mean, I'm just telling the truth.
Right. You know why Paul said Dawn Staley? Because she's a UVA grad, and he loves his UVA folks. So he got that in. Larry, what do you think? Oh, I asked you, Larry. I asked you already,
Yes.
didn't I?
No, you didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry, Larry.
The last question, you were asking what about who will win it?
Yeah.
Gosh, it is so wide open right now. It's
It really is.
and you got to ask me a different week. Right now, it looks like Texas because they beat all the top
They're number
eight.
one. They're number one in the country right now.
Yeah,
They really are.
I can't wait for these playoffs, and partially for the reason David said. We have some continuity with the women's game. And it's funny, I didn't realize that. I just went to the CIAA championship, men and women. My school happened to play in the championship in both games. The men won, but the women lost. But I enjoyed the women better than the men. I mean, it's something about the way they play. They're much more fundamentally sound.
Yes.
And great teamwork. I mean, so I'm looking forward to the women's tournament. But it's hard to go against South Carolina. But after what I saw, Connecticut, if Connecticut comes in healthy, they're a threat too. So it's up in the air with me. But if I had to pick someone right now, I'll pick USC.
Wow, I like it. You like Juju too.
And the rest of their team.
No, I didn't.
And the rest of their team. What do you think? Who win the national championship? If you had to pick a team right now, who wins the national championship?
If I had to pick, maybe I'm just right off a love fest with USC, but I got to go with USC, man. I watched that. They are just so. Now my dark horse is Notre Dame. That's my dark horse. They're pretty solid. I mean, they're
guards. Those two guards are good for them.
They are so fast, man. They're fast.
NC State beat them the other day. NC State's got a good team too. We don't even talk about them, and they got a good team. Yeah. So good. All right, let's switch to the men. All right, now the men. I agree with you, David. It doesn't seem like the men are as interesting, quite frankly, as the ladies. I don't know why that is, because there's some good teams, especially in the SEC. They score a lot of points. There's some great coaches in that conference. Yeah. So the top five right now is Auburn, although they lost last night. Auburn, Duke, Houston, Tennessee, Florida. Do we see a national champion out of those five, Larry?
Duke.
You have somebody else?
I'm gonna go with Auburn.
Duke.
They was bound to have a loss. They had it at the right time.
Yeah.
It'll probably wake them up.
They play hard too. They play hard. Yeah. They can score. They play hard. David?
Duke.
Yeah, Duke can score. My God, they've been crushing people lately. Part of that is because they play in the ACC, and the ACC has been a little down right now. I can't explain it, but the ACC, that used to be the premier college basketball conference, didn't it?
Well, I mean, men's basketball has fundamentally changed. NIL, everything is different and we can't follow the players. They only last a while. Like, the player they're touting the most now, Cooper Flagg. Well,
no, I was just,
he's only going to be around just this year, probably, unless aging catches him, because I don't know if technically he's old enough, because the NBA, you have to be 19. Unless they've changed the rules, you got to be 19. And I think he just turned 18. So I don't think he can go to the NBA right away. I think
he's eligible to go.
Why?
Either 19 or your
second freshman year.
Yeah, you have to complete your freshman year.
Okay. Well, he can play.
But David, you make a good point, David, because he said the other day he's considering coming back. And the crowd, no kidding, they give him a $5 million NIL for one more year. Why wouldn't you do that?
Why not?
For Cooper Flagg, who is the Caitlin Clark of men's basketball for obvious reasons.
Wait a minute. Men's basketball already kind of has a following.
Listen, Larry, hold on.
It's a difference,
Chill.
David. I know where you're going, but it's a difference.
Well, that's your opinion. My opinion is Cooper Flagg is going, because there's not been an American white player who of note in many years. He's the number one guy, and it's important that an American white player, male player, be successful. That's part of the ingredient of Caitlin Clark.
She's not an American white male player. She brought women's basketball.
Not Larry.
Out of nothing.
Let me make my point. You can disagree, but I've made my point. I'm just saying Cooper Flagg is the first player of his race that has been this talked about in years. Male player. That's all I'm saying.
No, he's unique in that point, but people weren't even following women's basketball.
Well, no, I wasn't. I know I'm not going to that level. I agree with you there.
All I said it was different. It's
different, but there's a need for a hero for men's basketball.
You're in a unique position, David. You're in a unique position. I'm going to ask you a tough question. I know he's a freshman. It's probably not even fair. Is Flagg as good, or can he be as good over time as a guy named Larry Joe Bird?
Come on. Larry Bird was one of the great players of all time. But at his same age, Larry Bird was not as good as Cooper Flagg is now.
I agree with that.
Larry Bird was at Indiana University for like 2 seconds, and then became a garbage man. And then went to Indiana State, and he still had to develop himself from that sophomore, junior, and senior season. So
jokes.
Cooper is white. Yes, Paul. That's breaking news, Paul. That's breaking news.
Just then.
Just then.
Y'all are laughing, but a lot of people didn't know Larry Bird was white at first too.
Hello.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Did you see that? Did you see the clip from Nolan Richardson when he was in the Basketball Hall of Fame speech, and he talked about Bird? I kept hearing Bird.
Mm-hmm.
It's
It's a great clip. Great clip.
Yeah, he didn't know he was white either, or something, right?
Yep.
Gregory, so what do you think of? I think I even forgot the question.
Yes, no, I got the question. So Auburn is. I go with Auburn right now. Auburn is the best all-around team, but I'm telling you, I do love watching Cooper Flagg play. He is really mature. That boy can fill up the basket, man. Right. He can put it in there. I love watching him. And the only reason I wouldn't pick Duke to win it is I would put him at a second to Auburn is they fade a little bit when he leaves the game. When he's not there, it's easy to grow a dependency on a player like Cooper Flagg. So when he's not on the floor, they fade a little bit. Whereas the Auburn boys just keep coming at you. It's a lot.
I just can't. I can't go for Auburn because of the coach. I think he's a scumbag.
He's cheated everywhere he's ever been.
And the worst sin was he snitched on other coaches.
Yeah.
Back. Yes, indeed. I don't like him. And he better not win.
Every time he's on, I'm like, this dude has cheated everywhere he's ever been.
Bruce Pearl.
I just can't go with
now.
I know.
True.
Like Kelvin Sampson, they ran Kelvin Sampson out of Bloomington making phone calls to his recruits in the summertime, and that seems like nothing today, doesn't it?
Nothing.
The thing that strikes me is it's a number of teams in the SEC. I was looking at their rosters. A lot of the top-ranked teams in that conference, they have guys that are like their third school in 3 years.
Yeah.
And I wonder. I always sound like a purist. I wonder if they're being exploited. I hope they're getting some NIL money.
Me too.
Because all of these guys ain't going to make the pro, but I hope they're getting some, getting their education.
They make a lot of money in that football conference called the SEC, and they're now using that money on the basketball side. Now the basketball is caught up, and they those guys are making money, no doubt, getting paid. So, all right. So, do we want to ask about the MVP of college basketball? I know you guys just mentioned. Is there any other player besides Cooper Flagg that you would make the MVP of college basketball at this point?
Cooper Flagg.
Not for me. Cooper Flagg's it.
Right now, I think. Well, and if we could define that, who do we think is going to go first in the draft? I think
Cooper Flagg.
I define it by that.
Yeah. All answers are Cooper Flagg.
And it has nothing to do with his race. The fact that he can flat out play.
Absolutely.
And by the way, same with Caitlin. They could just play.
Yeah.
No, he can play. He can play. My question is with Cooper Flagg is why isn't his twin brother any good?
He is good.
He is
not
Well,
good.
he ain't that good.
Well, he's still in high school though. Cooper left high school a year
They're
early.
twins. They should be
Cooper-
the same.
Cooper
Kind of like the
left
Van
high school a
Arsdale
year early.
twins. Like the
He's
Van
in his
Arsdale. By the
right
way,
grade.
Yeah.
the Van Arsdale twins from
They
Indianapolis,
just,
Indiana.
I think Flagg's brother, his twin, just won his third state championship or third. I just saw
Well, he
something about him.
ain't that good.
No, he's not like that. He's going to the University of Maine. or
He's not
something
going to be in the NBA.
next year. Yeah, I agree. The Van Arsdale brothers, where did they go, David? School?
They went to Indiana University from
Oh.
Manual High School in Indianapolis and went on to score about 15, 16 points a game in the NBA for their career.
Just wanted to squeeze that in.
Everything about them was almost identical.
Wow. The points,
Everything.
points per game, the way they played,
The rebounds,
all of that.
assists,
He's about in the pros too, college and
Yeah.
the pros. The numbers were about the same.
everything.
Weird.
Incredible.
All right, real quick, as we start to wrap up the show, let's briefly touch on the NFL, the National Football League. There's been a lot of stuff so far in terms of free agency moving, people tagging certain players and so forth. And the Washington Commanders picked up an interesting asset. We got Deebo Samuels. Larry, what did you think of that transaction?
I'm somewhat cautiously optimistic. I heard wish they had waited a little bit because I just heard the guy Metcalf up at Seattle wasn't traded. And I might prefer to have him. But no, as far as Washington get Deebo, they needed to improve a little bit at the wide receiver. I
And
think
he
he's
can run the
worth
ball
gamble.
too. And he can run the ball too. So I think they might help their running game a little bit too.
He's had a lot of injuries, which
Yeah,
is
that's the
kind of
key.
a question.
Is he going to be on the field? David, what did you think of that transaction?
First of all, the 49ers don't let anybody go unless they're done. Deebo is beat up. He's been playing as a running back and wide receiver. He's been beat to hell. He's not going to help the Commanders at all.
We just gave up a 5th round pick for him.
Yeah, we didn't give up.
Well, it's at best you might get a year out of him.
Greg, what'd you think of that transaction?
As soon as I saw all it took was a 5th round, I said, "Oh, there's something wrong with him. There's something wrong."
Right.
You don't get a player like that for a 5th round draft pick. He's either a weed smoker, can't stay healthy. It's something wrong with him. All you got to give up is a 5th round. Yeah, man.
Now you guys got to take into consideration their quarterback needs to be paid because they're talking about he and Brandon Ayuk are both going to be out of there, and you got to give up some salary. That salary cap's a real thing. They've been getting by with Mr. Irrelevant all these years, and they probably want to tighten them up. So somebody's got to go.
Now, if we had gotten McCaffrey, I'd be singing a different tune.
He's been quite injury prone too.
Throughout his whole career.
But when he's on that field,
Ooh, he's pretty
He's a
good.
hell of a player when he's healthy.
But look at San Francisco. They've had so many injuries, especially him. You would have thought they would have won the Super Bowl a couple of times, and they haven't been able to get there.
Yeah.
Even the quarterback's been hurt. He's been hurt too.
Yeah, you
All
got
right.
that window, man. And when that window closes, it's closed.
All right, as we wrap up, I want to get you guys' thoughts on this issue. So it apparently the 14-3 Minnesota Vikings regular season with their quarterback Sam Darnold, they did not tag him, and as of now, they haven't given him a new contract. So he's he's a free agent. He can sign with anybody. Larry, are you surprised at that?
No, I think that they might still re-sign him, but
Right.
I don't think they want to spend but so much. And they got Daniel Jones on their roster too.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just to throw that out there, they picked him up
Right.
last year.
Oh, my
But I
God.
think the future is definitely going to be McCarthy.
JJ.
And I think they don't want to get into a lot of salary cap purgatory by giving Arnold a contract for a few years that's going to tie him up and tie up their money. So I think if they could get him for a lesser amount, like maybe 25 or 30 million, which I would take, I
Right.
think he'd come back. But I just don't think they wanted to go up to 40 million.
David, any thoughts? Are you surprised? Here's a guy that maybe 3 weeks before the end of the season, he entered the MVP conversation. Now, again, he wasn't close, but he entered the conversation.
He became who he really is in the playoffs. He didn't do jack nothing.
Yeah.
And he became Sam Darnold again. It was midnight on his career. He's going to make about 15 million max. He's not worth more than that.
My God, that's a bargain for quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, he's a glorified backup at this point. He had a great single season. He came there as a backup because JJ McCarthy
right.
got hurt. And they want to play the rookie, soon to be first year quarterback.
I don't know that JJ can play, so we'll see. I mean,
Well, we don't know. I mean, but teams want to develop a first round pick.
Right. Yeah. Well, it doesn't work out half the time, right? I mean, that's just the truth. Gregory, were you surprised that Minnesota did not sign or offer a tag with him?
Not at all. I think they can wait and get him for a way better price than $40 million a year. That playoff game did him in. You can't fold like a lawn chair in the playoffs and get a franchise tag. You just can't do it.
Well, I hope my Raiders are listening, because I mean, I want them to consider going after that guy. They did not have a quarterback at all, and I think that guy 14-3 regular season.
Well, he's had one good year. How long has he been in the league? 6 years now? And every year except this past season has been a failure.
Played for some bad organizations, though.
Yeah, but he's been a failure. Bad teams still have great players.
Right.
Ask Sonny Jurgensen.
Hello. Speaking of our sweet spot. All right, guys, this has been an absolute wonderful time. As you guys know, I love Wednesday. I love this hour. You guys were outstanding. Look, let's do the croak. Hey, Sharice. How you doing?
Thanks
Hey, Sharice.
Thanks for the nice compliment of the guys. Nice, great show. Appreciate that. All right, let's do our closing comments, and I'll start with Mr. Larry Abels. Mr. Abels?
Like I mentioned earlier, I meant to say this last week on the show. I just came from the CIAA championship in my alma mater, Virginia State. Men and women made it to the finals. Unfortunately, the women lost in the championship game. The men won the championship game, so the men are definitely in the Division II NCAA playoffs, hoping that the women who won their regular season title and went all the way to the championship game will get a bid too.
Wow. Hey, Larry, how, did you make any other parties, though? That's the real question.
Parties, I just was strictly up there for basketball.
Okay, there you go. Just in case anyone's listening. David, any closing comments?
Well, as you know, at being the president of the Indianapolis cheer squad,
Yes.
Indianapolis becomes Big Ten country for like a week and a half. The women play this week. Women's basketball, college basketball this week. Next week, it's men's college basketball for the Big Ten. And once again, Indianapolis will showcase itself as a great city for sports.
Do a great job hosting those things, David. You guys really do. I might come in for the Big Ten tournament. I'm still contemplating that, so we'll see what happens.
All right.
Gregory.
It's good to hear somebody talking about the CIAA coming from St. Augustine University.
Hello.
We haven't won the CIAA in a while, so I don't talk about it too much these days. But my closing comment, first of all, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you all having me on. But I saw the first episode of a show on HBO called Celtic City. It is a phenomenal documentary about the relationships between the Celtics, how the black players, the things they dealt with during the time of their play. Bill Russell is like a freaking god, man. Bill Russell is something so special that every player in the NBA really should watch this just to get a better understanding of how far their league has come and the players that helped make that league. The battles between Russell and Chamberlain, these interviews that they did, it's a very well put together series. So I'm plugging. I know we don't plug shows on this show,
Oh,
but
yes, we do.
I'm plugging
Yeah.
that show, man. It's a great basketball documentary to watch about society and basketball and just overall our country.
And it's on what streaming service?
Yo,
HBO. So HBO
Okay.
Max. It's
All right,
really
great.
good. And I thought about you, David, because you talk about Bill Russell a lot, and I'm telling you, Bill Sharman said, Tommy Heinsohn said, Bill Russell made the greatest basketball play he's ever seen anybody make, and Bill Russell said Sam Jones was the most reliable player he's ever played with. Just incredible show, man. Really.
By the way, Sam Jones from Washington, D.C.
hello.
I know his son well. I know his
Yes,
son really
yes.
well. Good man. Good people.
All right, real quick. Only thing I would say about the sports fans, it's one thing to root or to maybe boo your team. That's fine. That's within the construct. If you want to make comments on social media about your team, that's fine. But this death threat stuff,
Yeah.
cut that nonsense out. It's now happening out in Kansas. Kansas? Are you kidding me? It's happened in Bloomington, Indiana. And I think it's also, I've heard word that the University of North Carolina, in terms of Hubert Davis, there were some social media death threat comments as well. That is unacceptable, and it should just cut it out. And I think that presidents of these universities, if they see something like that or hear something like that, should get on and make a stand and make a comment to stop, just cut that nonsense out. So just wanted to make a quick comment about that. Ladies and gentlemen, great show. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. We'll see you next week. Hey, Gregory, thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate that.
My
Thank
pleasure.
you, everybody who checked out the show. That was cool as hell. We'll see you next week.
All right.